Hello and welcome to part 2 of our Azamara World series, focusing on our trip on the Azamara Quest from Singapore to Dubai, dubbed the Spice Route. Before we begin, please consider subscribing to our channel as we have many incredible things to show you and we want you on board with us every step of the way. Thank you. This episode begins with not one but 2 sea days, but don't switch off because Azamara sea days are not boring. And we'll get to the elephants, monkeys, Buddhist monks and dangerous driving very soon. In the meantime, in order not to bore you too much, I'll not show you how utterly calm the Bay of Bengal has been, nor will I show you how utterly gorgeous this little ship is, because I'll probably save that for a ship tour, as I haven't done one yet of the quest. I'll also decline to describe to you how incredible the sea days are and how much effort the food and beverage team put into these special surprise lunch buffets. The evenings I'm also going to gloss over. You don't really need to know how serene and relaxed they are, do you? You don't really need to know that the sunset bar at the back of the ship is just the most amazing place to have an evening meal, particularly as each evening in the Windows Cafe they have themed cuisine that's utterly irresistible. No, I won't mention it. What I will mention though is that on Sea Day 2 we had a little visitor who I called Crazy Legs, who seemed quite oblivious to us, and I had to gently pick him up and remove him from the bottom of our sunbeds into the open because he got a bit confused with the windows and why he couldn't walk through them. He was in no hurry though, as he chose to linger by the pool for quite a while having a paddle, utterly unfazed by the attention he was drawing from an inquisitive crowd. The sea continued to remain as smooth as double cream as we enjoyed an evening of delicious food in Discoveries, followed by a couple or 3 of all-inclusive cocktails, along with the velvety tones of Gemma Rose, who went down an absolute storm and packed out the bar in the den every evening. Soon we had sailed through the creamy sea, our little white feathered friend had disembarked, and we had reached our first port of call, Hambantota, on the southern tip of Sri Lanka. The industrial port here is very quiet in comparison to other ports, and although the port has had significant investment and is the second largest in Sri Lanka after the port of Colombo, there was very little going on. Quiet seems to be quite the apt description for this area of Sri Lanka. In fact, a huge international airport was built just 11 miles north of Hambantota and opened in 2013. However, lack of demand meant that it was effectively iced and has been dubbed the world's emptiest international airport, with virtually no domestic flights coming or going and no international flights at all. But enough about that, for today was Day of the Elephants. By the way, that was not an authentic Sri Lankan elephant. I got it off the internet. Sorry. Our first stop was an elephant orphanage, the Udawalawe Elephant Transfer Home. This facility was established in 1995 by the Sri Lankan Department of Wildlife Conservation to rehabilitate orphaned elephant calves for release back into the wild. Why so many orphans? One word: humans. Visitors are kept at a respectful distance from the calves to minimise contact between humans and the elephants to keep them from being acclimatised to us. They are released into the wild when they reach 5 years old, where they are tagged and monitored. It's an excellent facility, and you can see the trained staff really care for these little giants. Already this excursion was our favourite of the whole trip, but we've only just begun. Lunch was at the excellent Grand Udawalawe Safari Resort, which well exceeded our expectations and was nothing short of a feast. There was all sorts on offer here, and the local curry dishes really had to be tasted to be believed. Helen went back for seconds, and thirds, and fourths, if I remember correctly. The restaurant had open sides and was surrounded by these cheeky fellas, and the tok macaque monkey, which are only found in Sri Lanka. We could have sat all day and watched them as they watched us, although I guess for the people who work and live here, they're probably more than a bit of a nuisance. After lunch we set off on a proper safari in a convoy of 4x4s that soon dissipated into the open park, and we were treated to the most enjoyable and exhilarating couple of hours of the voyage so far. Udawalawe National Park is a reserve that covers around 119 square miles and was opened in 1972 to provide a sanctuary for wild animals displaced by the construction of the Udawalawe Reservoir. It's the third most visited park in the country and an important habitat for water birds and Sri Lankan elephants. I can't begin to describe the thrill of seeing the wildlife here, so here's a quick montage so you can see for yourself. Slept well that night, I can tell you. But the adventuring in this episode doesn't stop there. The following morning we reached Colombo, Sri Lanka's capital, and decided to do a little bit of exploring of this ancient city by the only way to really get about: a tuk-tuk. Now, I've been on some crazy taxi and coach journeys before with some quite frankly psychotic drivers who had no fear of death, particularly yours. But tuk-tuk driving takes the reactions of a Formula 1 driver and the twitchiness of a housefly if you're not going to die, and installs them into an average human, who then proceeds to dodge oncoming projectiles with millimetre-perfect precision in a vehicle that handles like a fairground dodger made from a shopping trolley. Good job then that we were taken around the main Buddhist temples of the city, where the average resting heartbeat of the resident monks compared to a hibernating tortoise. An ideal calming environment then to catch your breath and to get your nerves back. After a couple of hours touring of a few main temples, we were grateful the road hadn't claimed us as a statistic, and we returned to the ship after handing the delighted driver $50 because, you know, we're not adverse to a decent trickle-down economy, and he looked very pleased indeed. Still cheaper than an excursion. A lot cheaper. Speaking of excursions, that evening's official excursion was not only cheap, it was free, as it was one of Azamara's signature AzAmazing evenings, and boy, this was a good one. Held at the magnificent Shangri-La Hotel in the centre of Colombo, this hotel only opened in 2017 and already has a history most would like to forget. This hotel, along with the Kingsbury, the Cinnamon Grand and 3 churches, were hit by 9 Islamic State suicide bombers earlier in the year in the 2019 Easter Sunday bombings. 259 people were murdered and more than 500 were injured. Security here was naturally very tight. The hotel inside is beautiful and the auditorium was huge and could obviously hold every single one of the 700 guests from the ship. Before the show, we were treated to the most delicious canapés, champagne and wine. The show itself was pretty incredible and featured local traditional dancing, some rather wacky costumes, male drummers with halter-neck tops on that had slipped down on purpose, and Sri Lanka's answer to Tom Jones, who was kind of a big deal in Sri Lanka, apparently. Yes, it was varied and incredibly entertaining. Here's a few clips of the performers. Someone within Azamara once said to us that organising these events is like organising a wedding and wedding reception for 700 guests every single week. And we can see how incredibly daunting this is and how much of a treat it is that Azamara puts these evenings on for free. It's very special. Well, that's me done for this episode. In part 3 we'll show you more of Colombo, and we'll show you the sights, sounds, and thankfully not the smells of India. Stay with us! Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and hit that bell notification so you'll know the minute part 3 is released. Thank you very much.